You know.
Well, that's really cool. It's always one it turns up.
Yeah, I bet you got one by the end of the week.
I was just thinking we need one of those.
For your mask.
Still trying to figure out.
You'll get two. One for each hand.
One for mine, one for yours.
Yeah. That'll be a little wait. Right, so is that it? Everybody?
Yes.
Yes. So, evening everybody. I'm Fred Nunn, Operations Officer for Coast Fishing UK, and the Trustee. And as you can tell, it's been a while since I've been in this job. So, where did it start for me? I've been diving since 2001, like most of you. Started in BSAC Club, Bristol number 3. Worked my way up to instructor, bits and pieces, various committee posts, and then in 2017 I moved down here to Bantam. So I've always been interested in nature, conservation, stuff like this. And back in 2011 I organised lobster release with the lobster hatchery.
The important in 1980s is calling.
So with the National Lobster Hatchery, and that's my then 11-year-old son releasing some lobsters. So I've always been happy to dive in any muddy puddle, as all of my club members know. So this is us helping out a paddleboard, stand-up paddleboard instructor finding a lost GoPro in a river that's a couple of meters deep. But we were paddling around in there for a good hour looking for a GoPro, so I'm always happy to go searching for stuff. And this is Henley's Lake in Bristol. So they kindly let us at the beginning of every year when they open for their swimming, we go and do our practical rescue management scenarios, and in exchange we do a search of the bottom of the lake. And this is proper zero-viz diving. You can't read your computer when it's up against your mast. And one year when we've done that, we've done the sweep, got glass bottles, all sorts of things off the bottom, and they set up for their opening weekend. And then we got a phone call going, would you mind coming back looking for something for us? It's like, what do you mean? Well, we sat at the gazebo and the wind came in. We don't know where the gazebo is. It might have been nicked, but it might be in, and there it's 3.5 meters deep. So you can tell the viz is literally going to be zero viz, and how we found it, I swam into it and did it. So it's like, again, zero viz diving, I don't mind it. In fact, it calms me for some weird reason. I just like having me in my thoughts. So moving on into, like most of you in the room, you've seen ghost nets and bits and pieces, and you then start trying to free life when you're on your dive. And then I got involved with Ghost Fishing UK. That was a little introduction to me. So Ghost Fishing UK started as a bunch of mates. We just wanted to go diving and clean up what we were seeing. So yeah, it was sort of like fed up with seeing all these nets and bits and pieces on our favourite dive sites. So a bunch of mates got together, started doing it, and then sort of snowballed from there. Did we formalise it, make a course, and now we're a registered charity, 7 years on, with 70 odd divers trained across the country, and it's going great guns, winning awards like the Fishing News Sustainability Award on Wednesday up in Scotland, and the Plastic Free Award from sorry, gone blank. Surfers Against Sewage, that was it, 2 years ago. So, what do? Where do we start? Every project starts with a survey. This is not my drawing. You will get a drawing from me in a minute. This is from our artist who did our lovely artwork. He came along and did a dive with us at NDAC, and we dressed up one of the wrecks in NDAC with some net and stuff. And he produced that, and lo and behold, he won the survey competition. So, as you can see here, we've got one of our divers taking some notes as he's surveying a lost lobster pond. This is up in Orkney. Now this is my drawing. Can anybody hazard a guess to what that thing on the right might be? Nobody?
Awful to have.
Lobster pot, inkwell lobster pot. So it's that going in. But with that sort of scrawly drawing, you can get an idea of what it is. But when you're making notes underwater, it doesn't have to be a piece of artwork. It's just to jerk your memory so that between you and your dive mates, you can work out what's going on. So we record everything that every site that we do a project on before, and then we do the recovery, and then we record again afterwards. So it's very important to us, the citizen science and the data collection. And it also helps us formulate the plan. So this is a consolidation of a survey of 3 teams, and as you can see, we've got 3 targets of various different things on the wreck of the Karengi River down in Falmouth. And we've got a large trawl net down at the stern, and we've got small mesh patches and bits and pieces. So this was like a bit of a little pick up here, and the main job was down on there. But we can discuss and plan within the team what we're going to be doing. So in the simplest form, you'll be collecting stuff and then putting it in a bag. And so for recovery, this is the first time I've done the talk with practical effects. So please excuse me if this turns into being a bit of a ramble. But we can see we've got some examples of rope and net and stuff, and most people are familiar with the happy old Green River backstabber, whatever knife you want to call it. These are pretty good and effective, but they can take a little bit of time to cut through. And we found some interesting alternatives. So these are pipe cutters, plumbers. We take them diving because they are very effective at small gauge rope. So that takes seconds, whereas that is sawing away, and it doesn't help that when you're sawing away, I've got to put tension on it, otherwise it's just like a bow. It just wants to move, the teeth want to grip into it. We all carry one of these, every single diver's always carrying one of those, and their own personal cutters and stuff. But we have found some interesting tools that work a little bit better. And the one that Will likes, this is for going through mooring ropes.
Circumcision.
So this is mooring ropes.
I've got that cut
You one-handed,
C6 through.
and that can zip through there. And again, with net, you can bunch it up.
Sorry, Fred, what's that called?
This is a ratchet pipe cutter.
Thank you.
They're about 50 quid. About 50 quid from B&Q.
Right, Babcock can sort that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they're also, the blade is changeable. So once you've dulled the blade, it is interchangeable. So that's that fun. Afterwards, you're welcome to come and not chop off fingers. Anything you choose in the bag. So in its simplest form, recovering can be, as I said, a little bit. So it's just removing stuff off of the seabed, collecting it into a bag, and then either carrying the bag, and we have a limit of about 5 kilos. Once it's about 5 kilos in the bag, we'll then set it up on a lift. So then you progress onto a simple lift. As you can see here, we've got a pair of divers and then the supervisor. We always dive in a 3 when we're doing recovery work. So surveying, we can work in a pair. But when we're doing any recovery work, we always work in a 3. So you have a doer, an assistant, and the assistant will carry the bottle of gas, which is completely independent from your back gas. So you can't even breathe off it. There's not a regulator put in your mouth. It's just a whip, and it's totally independent. It removes all temptation to go, I've got a little bit of extra gas, I can go and carry on doing this recovery. So here we've got guy on the left is still the left, yeah. Guy on the left is the doer. Guy on the right is just applying some tension to this chunk of the net, and then they can start working on removing the net. So here is me instructing one of our trainees on the course. So you can see the net is suspended by the lift bag, and then Emma there is going along, cutting as close down to the wreck as possible. And it's very controlled, and you're trying to be aware of what's going on at all times. So you've got Overwatch, person with the camera at the moment, and the two people working. Overwatch, or anybody within the team, can cease all work with a signal, either a visual signal or a grab hold. Squeeze means freeze, that's what we say. So if somebody grabs hold of you, it's not turn around and see what's going on. It happens. So first thing in the training is, if I grab hold of you, just stop. I've seen what's going on. I've seen the problem. I can sort it out. You don't need to know about it. Wait until you get a bop on the head or an OK signal, then you can carry on. So safety is #1 priority. So then, obviously, nothing's going wrong here. You've got nice, clear visibility, and they're working away on the net. What happens if you're working in a sediment environment? It starts getting a little bit lower visibility, and then once again, I can't even see my hands. So you start working on nets and bits and pieces, and they start moving. Each thing you cut, the net jumps up a bit, it just starts stirring up the silt, and you can see the Overwatch there at the back. I think this was actually a team of 3. You can see there's one there, but it's sort of like, you may be a little bit wary about this situation, and we would actually like to operate in a little bit of current, not too much, but a little bit of current, because all we need to do is stop, wait 30 seconds, and that cloud of zero vis moves off, and then you can start working again. So we always try, as I say, safety's the #1 priority, nice and slow and controlled in our things. So, lifting bags. Anybody got, the people that I just talked to earlier don't answer. Anybody got an idea of how much lifting capacity the small bag's got? Try and shout out.
15
kilos.
20,
25.
36 kilos.
36.
36 kilos a lift.
You can lift your wall.
These ones,
70,
you know this is 36,
72.
70, 84 kilos.
That's not bad.
Do you want that in something relatable?
Hey.
Over 13 stone.
You do that.
That's me. Over 13 stone of lift. And this net, it's got 1, 2, 3, and a small one on it. So this net is now being tensioned by nearly 200 kilos of lift. So that should give you an idea of the potential disaster that could happen. So again, controlling the situation with the Overwatch position and teamwork is essential. 200 kilos of lift. If you've ever had a ratchet reel jam on an SMB, which is what, 6 kilos? Your pants. This situation, you don't have a choice. I've got a video to show you in a minute that will scare the Jesus out of you. So once we've got it tensioned, does this video work? Yeah. You can see using now with the single action cutters, you can still see there the visibility is getting knocked up. If you imagine sawing with a knife there, all of a sudden it's not going to take me long with a few strands cutting through. I'm not going to be able to see what's going on. So this is why I prefer using these single action cutters. Until they either go blunt or you meet a piece of wire. Once they meet a piece of wire, it will jam up. So yeah, we don't. Using the different tools is ideal for the situation. So we carry as many of these tools as possible. We're working within a team, so one person will have the ratchet cutters, everybody will have a knife. The survey again is really important. We've done trawl net recoveries where the main leader rope going over the top around the front of the mouth of the net has got wire reinforcement running through it. In the early years, we were using the knives, cutting, getting to it, and then you hear that, I'm hitting metal. And then we were taking down the bolt croppers, trying to go through, turn it 90 degrees, go through again. For bolt croppers, to get any decent power, it's got to be a long tool. And where's all the weight? In the jaws. So as a diver, you put all the weight on there, you're not going to be able to do it. So then, again, it's trust. Your assistant, come in, hold this, I'm going to do that. It's like, no. So now we've got an underwater angle grinder. And it's by training by invitation only. So only a few of our most experienced recovery divers are being trained on the angle grinder. It works. And if anybody's an engineer or works with tools and has had kickback with an angle grinder, you don't want to slice off a finger 30 meters underwater. So we've got to be super, super careful. Again, pick the right tools for the job. The angle grinder doesn't go unless we've done the survey and we know there's wire open. On the survey, you'll get your knife out and will that go through? So next one. Here's the video that may scare you. Let's see if we can get the audio. So this was the net that we were working on. I think this is a different part of the net, but it's similar. It's got a few lift bags on it. But just listen to the sound of these lift bags singing and venting as they go on.
So how was the diver?
That's my GoPro. That's my GoPro on a rig. So I set that up with an SMB and a GoPro on a selfie stick pointing down. So on that bag that was in the middle of the shot, clipped onto the top, was an AP SMB, nice and tall to get everything nice and stable. That's a shot that I must have tried about 8 different times to get. But that demonstrates lift bags. Has everybody got respect for lift bags? Thank you. I just really don't want to encourage people to try and have a go. It is part of the training, and we do baby steps like all training. Start off small and work your way up. So starting off small, here is a local project. Just around the corner here, Mal gave us the coordinates for the Kingston Alive, I think it's called. Pretty flat wreck that was supposed to have some pots on it. We surveyed it and found what was best described as a giant bunch of grapes of these inkwell style lobster pots that were all just in a great big pile. And then the spaghetti monster of rope that was next to it, and a few bits of trawl and stuff. I forgot to put in the slide the survey of this one. But I was on team number 3. So the plan was to go in, each team of 3 was to take in 5 lift bags, and then the last team was the mop-up. So the first 2 teams, they would just attach onto a single pot, get it under tension, carefully cut away. Find another one that's loose and on the edge of this giant bunch of grapes. So the first 2 teams, they were going in waves. They had half hour to dive, use up their 5 lift bags, swim away, set off an SMB, and then that signals the next team can go in. And then wash and repeat. And then this is for my final dive with my team. So we're going after that one of the last ones in the pile. So again, you can see here, I'm just going to chat through it actually. Be quiet. So the doer is asking for a lift bag, so the assistant gets a lift bag out. So lots of communication. Everybody in the team knows what's going on. So we prep the lift bag and we attach it onto a very secure part of the pot. We don't just use the P-clip and just clip onto a piece of the rope. You've got to go through some of the frame. You don't know the quality of that pot. We have had lift bags just tear a chunk off. So you want to go through a nice bit of framework and get nice and secure on there. The end of that video again? This is from that camera. There we go. So now, the next video, it's taken them a while, so I trimmed it down a bit. They've got it under tension, and they're beginning to get it so that it's just about neutral. Again, being very careful. That's not me jumping in that rope pile on the right, that's that camera on the selfie stick. And I'm looking out for the buddies, and I'm hoping there's a selfie stick in there to see what's going on. Now they've got this pot here, under some tension. And again, the viz was all right this day, and you could see what was going on. So they've got the pot under tension, and then there'll be signals around the team to check that everybody's okay, and are we okay to proceed and start cutting. So he's cutting away, trying to get through the rope that's entangled this pot. The assistant's there watching him. He's backed off a bit, and I'm there watching what's going on. But the assistant's checking on me while I'm checking on them. Everybody's watching. Doer's there, double checking, everybody's clear. And then he's going to make final cut. And away he goes. So that, in essence, is a simple lift. And then after the dive, luckily, because our previous teams had done so well, we fired off 2 pots, and then it's like, okay, we've got some time. So we went to do a post-recovery survey. So then we swam away to have a bit of a look about what was going on, and then we came back once the viz had cleared a bit, and we swam around to do the survey of what's left. And this is the spaghetti monster of rope that was left up from that string that got dragged into the sound. I don't think from where the wreck is, anybody would have been shot in there, not that many pots. And you can see there's other debris. I don't know what those white pipes are, but they're this sort of diameter. And there was some chunks of trawl net. We did get a section of that trawl net as well, and we're going back hopefully beginning next month and hopefully finish the job. Yeah, you can see mooring rope there. That's that sort of gauge rope. But again, this informs the next trip, so we don't need to do the full survey next trip because we've got the after survey for that one. You may not be able to tell, but can anybody tell where that might be? It's a local wreck.
Lane?
It's not the lane, it's got twin prop shafts, and that's the port one.
Cylinder.
It's the cellar. And if you know how big the cellar's backside is, that neck is slap bang in the middle underneath the stern. So how are you going to lift that with lifting bags and get that out from underneath the cellar? Again, the survey and the plan was made, so we had to think outside the box, and we used the lift bags, and we took down a section of rope so that we could tie the rope on, bring the rope up the side, and then we could attach the lift bags on the side so we're getting this action to drag that mess out. Because putting lift bags on, my head's lit pretty much on the surface, they're not going to have much action. Again, survey is ultimately important so that we can effect, or write up a plan to do an effective recovery. So once we've got this gear on the surface, what do? So this is a gill net that was off of Ediston Lighthouse, I think. We start freeing all the life that was trapped in it. Gill nets are the worst. Normally takes between an hour and 3 hours, depending on how long the gill net is for the divers to recover all of that stuff and get all the life out. These nets are designed to catch bony fish, swimmy fish, so they get pulled out quite quickly. This one had at least 50 crab, spider crab, edible crab, just all heavily entangled in, and all of that stuff, all that netting gets up in the joints, and you've got to try and chop that all out. And it's painstaking work on your trip back. It stinks. Tom, the Hardy Navy chap there, we've got a nice video of him with a rotten fish. And it's a good thing you didn't have smell-o-vision on that one. So pots, you'd think pots would be nice and easy, but they're not. The crab don't know that you're trying to rescue them. They are holding on for dear life. And on this recovery, we recovered 12 pots, and those two buggers would not let go. It was a fight trying to get them out of the pots. How the fishermen do it, God only knows. But it took us quite a while to get those out. So that one was a string of 36 pots, half a mile long string across the reef down in Falmouth. I'd seen it on a pleasure dive, one of my regular dives. I'd seen this string of pots, and I started following it, and I swam for a good solid 10 minutes, and then started descending. It was when we had this awesome viz last month, 20 plus meters viz, and I started descending doing the safety swim, and I could still see it trailing off into the distance. And it's like, we're going to have to get a team together to survey this, because we never touch live gear, so we have to confirm that it's definitely lost. And with a string of pots, that means checking both ends to make sure that it's tangled, trapped, whatever, there's no buoy connecting into the surface. So we went back with the team divers. The plan was basically to do my same dive again. Drop in, swim west, bump into this line, because the string was going north to south. And then one team was sprinting south, other team was sprinting north, and the third team were going to do a detailed survey. The south team, we swam for 25 minutes, ended up being in 34 meters when we found the end of our line, and we found 12 pots, and then the string wrapped around a huge boulder and frayed end. So they've been trying, but it just got more and more entangled around this boulder, and that was it. They've lost their end. The north team, they swam, their dive time was 50 minutes, and they still haven't reached the end. They then fired up an SMB, attached the SMB, came up and told us we're not there yet. And we were there going, well, we don't. We then followed on the same north line with the skipper, couldn't see a buoy anywhere or anything. I was like, what are we going to do? So the skipper started phoning round the fishermen skippers that he knew, gave him the position, started chatting, and he was like, John, is this yours? No. Try Joe. No, it's not his. Try Jason. Eventually found the skipper. Yeah, I lost that one back at the beginning of lockdown. So I'd been down there for at least 18 months. And we were surveying it, and every pot had life in it. So fishermen that are saying a non-baited pot will not catch is bullshit. The life will go in, they will eat it, and then they will perish because of starvation. They are on their next bait. They will carry on catching. We had a good long conversation with the skipper, and it was decided that the north team would drop in again. He said it should be a string of 36 pots, and between us, we were getting into the 30s. Like, right, okay, you guys drop in and swim on. Everybody in the team was checking for snags and obstructions, why he's lost the string, because we didn't know at the time how it had been lost. We then, north team, were going to go in, carry on swimming north, and then find the end, clear the end. The south team, we cleared the end. We'd undone the tangle around the boulder and tied off. We'd marked our end as well, because we didn't know what was going on. This is all simultaneous diving. It's a lot of balls to juggle. So we'd marked our end with an SMB, and we'd come up, and then we recovered. They marked their end, and the skipper measured it in the lunch, and it was 0.4 mile between the two buoys, and we've not found the end yet. So we spoke to the skipper. He said, yeah, start recovering it. And it's like, right, okay, we're not going to get 36 pots on our dive boat. We may get, and it turned out to be 12. So, and then we said, well, what we'll do is we've got a spare buoy on board. We'll set it up and guarantee that you'll be able to recover this on Monday. So working with the fishermen is key to us. We're not anti-fishing. We're not telling the world to go vegan. This is a problem that you need communication. You need trust. Yep.
If it had been down for 18 months,
Yeah.
you're not notified.
They're supposed to. They're supposed to tell. They're supposed to. I think it's the receiver of the wreck. Anything lost overboard is supposed to be reported. But it turns out COVID really kicked their asses. They have one of the largest fishing vessels in the port, and they're now one of the smallest under 10 metre fishing vessels. They can't even recover that string back onto their boat. they have to do it in chunks, which is what we were facilitating. Yeah, so we've spent the time to do all of this. We'd like some media for it. So he said, no, fine, you recover as much as you can fit on the boat, free the life, get your media, and then put on a new rope, and Boy, and he'll come along and he'll recover the rest on Monday, which he did. He phoned us up on Monday and he got the rest of it. But out of the 12 pots, so a third of it, we recovered 33 edible crab that were alive. There were 3 dead ones, dead edible crab. There was 3 lobsters, a flatfish of some sort, and a couple of other things on the survey, I can't remember. But these were the biggest of the crab, and there were carcasses strewn around everything. And it's like, I can't work out, but there were 3 recently dead, should I say, and the rest was just bits and carcasses. So it's clear evidence that these can continue fishing. But that was a successful project, and then the skipper said, I've got a couple more marks if you'd like to go and have a look. So once we've got it to the surface, we've cleared all the life out, what are we going to do with it? So pots are our worst problem. Unless they're in working condition and we can give them straight back to the fishing community, which is what we try and do. We try and identify the owner. If we can't identify the owner, this was a trip up in Orkney, and we'd done a talk earlier in the week, and we told the fishermen that we invited the local fisheries along. We told the fishermen that anything we find we can't identify, we're going to leave on the quayside, and all of them went, no, we're not interested, it's not my gear, it's not my gear. It's like, it's not blame, we're not doing this, we don't want you to charge you for any of this. So no, we're not going to collect it. So, all right, well, we've got another avenue. We're going to donate them to the London Aquarium for their displays. So we got the jet wash out, we cleaned them all down, loaded them up on a pallet ready to go, and the last night before we went home, the pallet got empty.
That's just the opposite in general, to be fair.
Yeah.
You mean, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
John?
Don't know when, but we don't mind. The aquarium were fine with it. It was in the early days when there wasn't that much trust built up. The lobster pots are a pain, and you've got the buckies down the bottom. These are for catching whelks and stuff. That all ends up going to filled with concrete at the bottom, fitting that over the top. So a lot of it, unfortunately, does end up going to landfill, but we're making inroads into what we can do with recovering. So this lovely chap up in Orkney, he's had, I think it was 1.5 miles of rope off of us, and he makes rope mats, weaves them into the mats, and all sorts, door stops, bits and pieces. And there's more and more people around the country that are doing this. Castaway Rope Works is down in Cornwall, so they now get our Cornish stuff. And so any ropes of any decent length that we haven't chopped up into little pieces goes to being repurposed rather than recycled. So then we've got schools, artists, creatives, fashion projects. We get contacted pretty much on a weekly basis now, especially with the more exposure that we get of, can I have some ghost net? Any chance I can get some ghost net? And it's like, it smells, it's in my garden, but it smells, my missus hates me. And it's like, yeah, I want it. This seal was created by a young artist for a national competition, and he wanted to show what was a life-size seal for his showing. So we sent him up 10 kilos of net, and then he also used some of his lip picking stuff and things. School in Southampton wanted a load of net, and they used that. And we say to them, once you're done with it, take it apart, send it back to us, we'll put it into our recycling stream. And they go, no, we'll take them apart, remake it into something else, over and over again. And then this poor model, she was draped in stinking net for a fashion shoot. But again, I don't know, the pictures were quite nice, but never got to meet her. That was posted off to London for a fashion shoot, and then came back. So that's repurposing of the materials. Then we have recycling. So there's a few bits and pieces, again repurposing. I've got, this band was made from a net recovered last month, Mounts Bay Beach, next to St Michael's Mount. we recovered that with another, the Mountain Bay Marine Group. They do beach cleans and stuff. They contacted us saying, we haven't got a disposal route for this net. Would you help facilitate? So I went down and helped them drag it off the beach. And then we contacted Behaviour Change Cornwall and said, can you make something out of this net because it's nice and clean and it's got quite a unique colour. So now we can sell jewellery. That's another repurposing. So Ocean Plastic Pots. This is a company who's won a sustainability award from the Royal Chelsea Garden Show. It started off, these were the prototypes, but he's one of our divers, came and joined us afterwards, but he started off this project where it's the only place we know that is recycling true ghost gear, as in stuff recovered from the seabed. Anything else that's repurposed or recycled in a factory is end of life gear. We know, we were in that circle, friends and manufacturer. We were shipping stuff to Slovenia and they were stripping it down and using only the nylon 6, whereas a lot of this is HDPE, LDPE, there's so many different types of plastic that's used in the fishing industry. So that factory would only use that. The Denmark factory would shred it down, make it into pellets, but they only want the cleanest of the cleanest nets, because any organics are contaminants, and then that all ends up in their recycling systems. So Ocean Plastic Pots, they are working, they've got a system that's working, and they've had our haul from last year, which was 3 tonne, I think, that got shipped up to them in Glasgow. They shredded it, they've washed it, and they're about to start injection moulding pots with it. And this is all within the UK. And so we're a lot happier shipping it the length of the country rather than shipping it the length of Europe. So keep your eyes out, hopefully there'll be a new colour coming out from the Ocean Plastic Pots. But like I said, the plastics from Denmark, my sunglasses, they're made by Waterhall. I've also got prescription glasses and all sorts. They're made from the shredded plastic, injection moulded, but it's the end of life nets. They call it ghost net, and they say intercepted from the seas, as they're using their proper words. But it's generally advertised as ghost gear, but as the general term, but it's usually end of life gear. The beach clean stuff, surprisingly the beach does a good job of cleaning the organics off. There's that wave action and in the sand, they'll accept good, clean beach collected nets, but they won't touch ghost nets. We've sent them stuff and they just go, no, it's too heavily contaminated. So, what can you do as divers? We have a reporting system which has been going for 4 and a bit years now, and we've got over 250 reports from around the country from all sorts of recreational divers. So we need information, and divers have it. You're the guys that are diving and getting eyes on the most. So we have an online form. It's a simple Google form, and yeah, you just go to ghostfishing.co.uk/report. We've got a QR code as well, and we've got posters that that were sent out to the dive skippers to display. So it's simple enough. Just save it in your phone, and again, it's a simple form asking you your contact details so we can ask you more questions. The location as best as you can, a brief description, and if you have any photos that you think might be useful. If you've got photos, you can email them into us. We tried having it on the form, but Google didn't like it. So we keep it nice and simple. You've got a tick box there and a comment section to say, I've got some photos. I'll then send you a link to a Google Dropbox type thing, and you can dump them in there, and I'll be emailing back and forward asking more details about it. But it's simple as that. We do have, just about to be released, a surveyor's course. So it's not the full recovery course, it's more like sea search. We'll train you to survey in a way that will get us the best quality data. Because at the moment we get varying reports of net think it was the James Egan Lane. We did a few dives that day, and that's about it. And we went and found out it was on the Scylla. So yeah, that was a good report. 2 essays and essays on this Google form, and then I've got to sift through it trying to get out the useful information. So it'll be a weekend course, no charge to it. All of our divers are volunteers, nobody gets paid, but it'll be a course that can be given by any of our divers who are qualified through agency instructors. So you don't have to be a specific ghost diving instructor to give it, and it will go through basic skills because we're going to be asking you to approach entanglement hazards and surveying techniques, using the wet notes underwater, using cameras, what you're looking for, bits and pieces, and then that will cover that. For being a ghost fishing surveyor, you're doing your own. It's not come and do a project with us, it's do your own diving as you normally would. So you can dive it on single, you can dive it on twin set, you can dive it on a rebreather. You're doing your diving. We're just asking you to collect some information in a useful manner while you're on it. But it gets your foot in the door. If you're then really keen and you're working up through your qualifications, you're then contributing, and when you have got the experience to come and dive with us, twin set, nitrox 32 qualification, 100 dry suit dives, I think that's the minimum. And 10 dives within the last year. You need you to be well practiced. I think that's the prerequisites for the course. You can put your name forward for the course, and if we already know you, you're more likely to get course space. It's as simple as that. If you've come out and done the surveyor's course with us, and then you're providing decent data, we're then likely to give you a course space rather than Joe Bloggs, who's filled out the form and we don't know him from Adam.
How long is the course?
The full course is 3 days, 6 lectures. So we normally do the lectures online. Well, over COVID, we were doing the lectures online, and then 3 days, 6 dives, some dry practical sessions, and some in water sessions, basic dive skills, team diving, tool use underwater, lift bag use, bits and pieces. And then once you've done the course, it's then come and do a full live project. We've written the course modular so that you could do it in a quarry with simulated gear. We chuck stuff in the quarry with permission, and then recover it, survey it and recover it on the course, or we'll do it on a live project. Not on a live project, on a real piece of ghost gear. We try and find something that's a nice benign site, 10 metres deep. We've done one on Tinker Shoal before, just done a bit of recovery on there. So it's a nice simple course. Once you've done the course, you're then invited to attend a proper live project, do the proper live project, and then you're signed up. You can join any project across the country, and then you get permission to join into the private Facebook groups and bits and pieces, and you get your notifications. We send out email notifications of when projects are happening, etc. But yeah, the course is free. You just got to pay your normal dive fees, entry for obviously your boat space or whatever. There is a £200 commitment fee, but you get that back after you complete the course. We had guys in the early days sign up on the course. We put instructors in place, get boat spaces, and then we're phoning them on the day. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, I went into work. I got some work. And it's like, we've got an instructor here who's taken annual leave. We've got 2 boat spaces at £90 each, because we don't fill a boat because you need space for the gear. So a boat that would take 12 will only take 9. So we now ask for a £200 refundable deposit before you can come on the course. But you do get it back once it's done.
Sorry, just to interrupt for a second, Frank. As a branch, we've actually supported these guys for the training.
You have, yeah.
3 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
You had a 3-day diving course. We actually provided a boat and coxswain for the entire 3 days. And watching these guys is utterly incredible. It's spectacular to watch what they achieve.
Thinking outside the box, I know you said that, I was kind of like thinking about maybe we could offer the boat to do that again.
Yeah.
I would be 100% as a non-committee member encouraging that, and I think that would be a very good thing.
I was
to do.
going to approach you because I have a course planned for a weekend in August
Okay.
and a Monday. I was going to say.
And can I ask one more question?
Yep.
Last one.
It's all right. This is pretty
might be
much
other
the end of
people.
the talk anyway.
Oh,
It was
fantastic.
Q&A in a
It's just
second.
it seems appropriate.
Yeah.
So you have like a doer
Yeah.
and a
Assistant.
and a photographer.
Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Yeah.
How do you specify each person once they've done the course? How does
We
that
don't.
happen?
Everybody's trained to do every job, and within the dive, you may be switching it around. If the doer's getting fatigued, the doer and the assistant will switch, or the doer and the Overwatch will switch. It's nothing. There's no fixed
You
roles.
don't go down on a particular
You
job.
go down with a previous plan.
Right,
So
yeah.
within the main plan of this is the recovery that we're trying to effect. You then go off in your teams of 3 and you do a dive plan within your teams of 3. You'll have a team leader, because as you know, when you dive in, you need somebody that calls the shots, otherwise you're talking and wasting time underwater. So you'll have a team lead, that's normally the supervisor, but again, it could be anybody in the role. If we're instructing, I'll be the assistant, and the person needing the experience is the doer. So I'll be the team leader, and then the doer will be the doer, and then I'll have safety diver. So again, everything's interchangeable, you're trained on everything. The person with the camera just happens to be sat watching and waving the camera around. But if anything happens, the camera's ditched and they're not ditched, it's clipped off. The camera's quickly put away, and safety is #1 priority. So yeah, everything is a mixed role, and again, it can switch out. If you're expecting there to be lots of work, you will be switching out those 2 main roles between the 2, because you do not want to get CO2 hit when you're working. Soaring with one of those through a chunk of net this wide, it can take 2-3 dives to get that down to this sort of thing. And we've had that on the Oregon, I think it was on the stern, for every trawl net. We had to do 3 dives on it just to get the first chunk of net out. And then once things start falling about, you can then pick off little bits. That's right.
Is it time for the shy people in the room to ask questions?
Yeah. So well, that was the end. I think that was the end of the talk. Yeah. So again, I haven't written the slide because literally the surveyor course is pretty much just about to be released. So I haven't written the slide for that, but I've explained the surveyor course. So that's the end of it. Any questions?
Right, okay. I have to show my colours. I do a lot of work on marine conservation management and so on. And one of my question really is, you can quite often, it seems, identify who the gear belonged to. We certainly, we certainly had that case over at Baton Bay 8 days ago, when there was an IFCA tag, and the fisherman was identified, but had no interest whatsoever in assisting or recovering his wrasse pots.
Right.
Now, do you see any sort of shift in the attitude of fishermen who have identified that it's their gear that you're dealing with to actually help?
Now, there's definitely a shift. The only thing that we've ever found that was tagged was up in Orkney, and it was from Nova Scotia. I don't think they're driving across to help us out with the recovery of that.
No.
But we've never found anything with identifying marks on it. We've tried. We then contact the local skippers, but yes, there is more help coming from the fishing community. Now we're getting more trusted. The smaller vessels, the independent guys, are beginning to realise that we're there and we're an asset, and they will come and approach us. We've had guys come over to us while we're getting kitted up going, "You the ghost guys?" It's like, yeah. It's like, "You recovering some nets?" "Yeah, we're about to go on a project." It's like, "I've got a mark for you." It's like, yeah. It's like, "What are you doing today?" It's like, "Well, we've obviously got a plan to go and recover stuff. We've got volunteer divers and..."
Well, you're an asset if they can reuse the stuff, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
The pots, the wrasse pots which were in Baton Bay, the answer of the fishermen when the IFCA contacted them was, "We're not wrasse fishing anymore, we're not interested."
Right.
So they were not interested in recovering those pots. They've been down there for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And they were wrecked. but
Well,
they just didn't want to know
it's a
because they
wrecked
weren't
pot
any use
because
to
there's
them.
no
No,
use
they
to
weren't
them.
any use.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you think there's ever going to be a shift where a fishing boat which has got a hauler, which could haul things like that, would actually say, well look, they're my pots,
Yeah.
I'll come and you attach the line, I'll haul them in. Is that going to happen?
That has happened, yeah. We've had that a few times. Like I said, the small independent guys, we've contacted them and we're beginning to get a better working relationship with those. We've contacted them when we're about to do a project saying any chance you'll be around to help us. But we, under our licences, we cannot use mechanical aid from the surface. Otherwise it's a fully licensed activity.
Is that the MMO that are being prats again?
That's the MMO.
They're absolute
we
prats.
operate under an exemption, which you still need to notify them. So using lift bags and removing stuff from the seabed is an exempt activity, but exempt activity just means you fill out all the same paperwork as applying for a self-service licence, you just don't pay the fee. So we're still notifying the MMO that we're working, and where we're working, what the project is. Because we're a charity and we're doing we decided at the beginning we're doing everything above board.
Well, it'll do diddly squat, but
Yeah.
that was a sort of response which I made to the recent consultation on the Green Paper, which is about the Environment Act, which said what needs changing, and I said the MMO need to stop requiring licences for benign activities.
Yeah, but then they'll ask, how do you prove it's a benign activity?
Well, we won't go into those
yeah,
details, but the main thing is that the MMO are an absolute burden on good things being done.
Yeah. I totally agree. We had to get our original licences, we had to consult with Natural England, and we had to write into our systems of work, our operating system, what would we do if we encountered, say, pink sea fan. Pink sea fan is legally protected, you can't even touch it when it's dead on a beach. So if we find a net that's got entangled around the pink sea fan, we have to cut around the pink sea fan and not touch it.
I know,
etc., etc. So those, and that was just Natural England. Then we had to appease Historical England that we wouldn't go ripping the heritage apart of the wrecks by attaching loads of lift bags and just applying so much lift that it just goes whoosh. So there were a lot of hoops jumped through so that we could get our licences, and because we had our licences, and then when the exceptions started coming in and we were applying for exceptions, they were going, we already know that you're a responsible party, the exception's fine. My concern is if you do a blanket, you can do whatever you like, it's benign and it's for the good of the ocean, you could have all sorts of people, cowboys jumping in and trying and doing stuff. We've got a perfect safety record. I know for a fact other similar people do not. I can't discuss it, but I know for a fact they do not have a perfect safety record.
Well, it's
organisation.
trust. Increasing trust all around. Yeah.
Yes, well.
And actually, that is where I was going to go with my question. Was I've seen you guys, crikey, I was coxing for you lot when you were doing your training. I think you're fantastic. I think you're brilliant. There are other organisations coming through. There are other agencies, training agencies, trying to jump literally on the bandwagon, which you lot have trailblazed.
Yeah.
You guys have a very strict, and I'm not having a go at that.
No,
I know there's a lot of
it's
regreated divers in the room here
it's
who are there going,
that
we
way.
can't take part because we're regreated divers.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I don't mind that at all. Do you feel that some of these other agencies who jump on this bandwagon are cutting corners, milking it? I'm a commercial diver, and there's no chance in goddamn hell I'd be playing about with lift bags, nets, at whatever depth, because of an entanglement hazard, without surf supply. I mean, I'm looking at an owner of a diving company, not a chance in hell, would you? No. So I think what you guys do is incredible. The training is exceptional, because my old housemate, who doesn't quite well see you anymore. Yes, my questions are very rambling, I'm sorry. Do you feel that too many people are jumping on this bandwagon?
That is a concern. We can't control what other people do. We can only lead by example. Again, everything above board, trying to lead by example, trying to lead by... we noticed a few organisations, they were filling by back gas and using SMBs and all sorts of things, taking the reg out of the mouth, purging the reg into a lift bag, and it's like, that's just asking for a free lift. All sorts of things. We were seeing this, and our chairman approached their head, whatever you want to call it, the top person, and he was like, please, can you tidy up your act? Because we don't want to be associated, even by familiarity of doing a similar activity, with a fatality, an accident as such. So I know a lot of divers in similar organisations and their friends, and I respect what they're doing, but I am worried about the cowboy having ghost, if that's me personally. And being one of the trustees for ghost fishing, it will, if anything does happen within ghost fishing, it'll come down to us three, the responsible adults. So yeah, I like to show in my talks the potential hazards of doing it. Any other questions?
Can I just ask one? Obviously, using dive boats, all the diving equipment, how do you guys fund it? Do you fundraise? Do you sponsorship? Is it the fishing industry that pay you, or just
Sponsorship? It started off with it being divers paying for their own space on the boat, and then it was fundraising. We do the big give every year, fundraising, and that's a good match fundraising system. So every pound donated gets doubled up to our target. We have some merch for sale. We sell these bits and pieces that are remade, and all the profit from that stuff goes straight back in. We've had sponsored projects with Fat Face Foundation, World Animal Protection, Ryro. That should be, media from that should be coming out any moment now. Various other things where they'll sponsor the boat for the day, so they're paying for the most expensive thing for the day. So like the big cost is usually the charter, £700 a day or something for the boat. Then the divers will pay for their gas, etc. Indeed, wonderful people over in Indeed, they let us have our 32 for nothing. So they sponsor the gas for all of our diving when we're out Plymouth. So yeah, it's expensive. You're using your own dive equipment. Ghost fishing only supply the lift bags and the cutting stuff, but everything else is your own equipment, and your dry suit gets trashed. All sorts. The photos that we've done on the recent media, I'm in a nice new Santy suit and it's just filthy from top to bottom, and I was using a jet wash car shampoo and all sorts trying to get that stink out. Krill, the nets, you start lifting a net and the krill just come out of it and all over you. And then again with the back to Natural England, contamination control. If you're doing a recovery and you're getting covered in critters, I can't now go and dive at a different location until I've completely cleaned my kit and got all of that contamination off. It's all in the training. It's extensive what you have to do, but it's enjoyable. That feeling when you get that going up to the surface, and at the end of the day, once you've got all that life out and you're knackered, and then you've got hours drive to get home, and store the equipment, store the gear that you've recovered, but still, I keep on going back for more. Any more questions? Look, no? So,